We left one man walking out of the great city, away from the towers of Babel, west into open country with nothing in his hands and no name of his own. His name was Abram, an old man, 75 years old, childless, camped at the edge of the known world in a place called Haran. And there, to that unremarkable old man, the voice that made the world speaks again, and the whole rescue of the human race begins. The Lord said to Abram,
"Leave your country and your relatives and your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you."
Hear how much that costs. In the ancient world, your country, your clan, your father's house were not just where you lived. They were who you were, your identity, your security, your pension, your insurance, your whole self. God asks Abram to let go of every single thing a human being grips for safety, and to walk out into nothing. And notice, God does not even tell him where. Not go to Canaan. Just go to the land that I will show you. You will find out when you arrive. This is the call of faith, and it has never changed. Take your hands off your own life. Let go of the thing you are clutching for security, and follow a God you cannot see toward a future you cannot yet see. You are not really walking with God until you have done that. And then, into the empty hands of a man who has just been asked to give up everything, God pours an astonishing promise.
"I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. You will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who treats you with contempt. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you."
Stop on every line because the whole Bible is folded up inside these 3 verses. Remember Babel, 1 chapter ago, a whole world clawing upward, crying, "Let us make a name for ourselves." And here is God, freely, to a childless old man who is not even asking, "I will make your name great." The thing the tower could never seize, grace simply gives. But watch where the promise goes. "I will bless you," and then at once, "You will be a blessing, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you." Did you hear it? All the families. The very families that were scattered at Babel, every nation and tongue dispersed across the earth, God now promises to gather and bless, through this one man and the people who will come from him. Abram is not blessed for Abram. He is blessed to be a blessing. From the first word of the rescue, God's eye is already on the whole world. The New Testament calls this the gospel preached in advance to Abram, because here, at the very beginning, God announces that one day people of every nation will be brought home. So what does Abram do with a call that costly and a promise that vast? 3 words. So Abram went, as the Lord had told him. He does not negotiate. He does not ask for the coordinates. A 75-year-old man folds his tents, takes Sarai his wife and Lot his nephew and everything he owns, and walks out toward a land he has never seen, on the word of a God he cannot see. That is faith. Not a feeling, not certainty. Obedience that moves its feet before it can see the road. He comes into Canaan, to the oak of Moreh at Shechem, and the writer drops one quiet, loaded line. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. The land God has just promised him is already full of other people, strong and settled. The promise and the facts in front of his eyes do not match at all. And right there, in the gap between them, the Lord appears to Abram and says, "I will give this land to your offspring." Abram has no offspring, and the land is not his, and he is standing in it as a homeless stranger. And what does he do? He built an altar there to the Lord. He worships in the gap on ground he does not own, over a promise he cannot yet see. He moves on between Bethel and Ai, builds another altar, and calls on the name of the Lord. This is the man of faith at his best. And then, just as quickly, the man of faith at his worst, because faith is real, but it is never yet perfect. There was a famine in the land. The very land of promise dries up and starves, and Abram, instead of trusting the God who put him there, runs for Egypt, down to the world's breadbasket, down out of the place God gave him. And fear takes the wheel. He looks at his beautiful wife and does the maths. The Egyptians will want her, and they will kill me to take her. So he says to Sarai, "Please say that you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake." Read that slowly. To save his own skin, the father of faith hands his own wife toward a foreign king's palace. The man God is going to bless the whole world through is frightened, lying, and willing to sacrifice his wife to protect himself. If you were inventing a hero, you would cut this scene. The Bible leaves it in, because the Bible is not selling you a hero. It is showing you grace. Because watch who rescues this, and it is not Abram. Sarai is taken into Pharaoh's house, and the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. God himself steps in to guard the promise that Abram is busy endangering, the whole future, the nation, the blessing. The seed through whom all the families of the earth will be saved is sitting inside a pagan palace because of Abram's cowardice, and God will not let it be lost. He delivers Sarai, and a pagan king ends up rebuking the man of God. "What is this you have done to me?" Abram is sent away, shamed, and somehow richer than he came. Here, this early, is the deepest pattern in the whole Bible. The promise does not rest on how strong Abram's faith is. It rests on how faithful Abram's God is. Grace is not a wage paid to the brave. It is a rescue thrown to the failing, and grace draws him back. Abram goes up out of Egypt, and the writer walks him home step by step, back to the south, back to Bethel, back to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, back to the altar he had made there at the first, and there Abram called on the name of the Lord. That is what repentance actually looks like. Nothing grand. Just going back to the altar you walked away from, and calling on his name again. Now Abram is very rich, and so is Lot, and the land cannot carry them both. Their herdsmen begin to fight, and Abram the elder, the one with every right to choose first, does the opposite of everything Babel taught. He says to Lot, "Please, let there be no strife between you and me, for we are relatives. Isn't the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you take the right, I will go to the left." The man who was promised the whole land gives away first pick of it. He holds it all with open hands. And Lot does what the natural human heart always does. Lot lifted up his eyes and saw all the plain of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. He looks, he calculates, he takes the best. Lot chose the plain of the Jordan for himself, and journeyed east, and pitched his tent toward a city called Sodom. And the writer adds the quietest, most ominous footnote in the chapter. Now the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked, great sinners against the Lord. Lot walked by sight. He saw what looked like Eden, like Egypt, the richest ground in view, and he moved straight toward it, and he never once saw the fire waiting on the horizon. Walking by sight always chooses the well-watered plain. It simply never sees where the plane is heading. And then, the moment Lot is gone, after Abram has let the best land go without a fight, God speaks again. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot was separated from him,
"Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward, for I will give all the land which you see to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can count the dust of the earth, then your offspring may also be counted. Arise, walk through the land in its length and in its width, for I will give it to you.
Do you see the two pairs of lifted eyes? Lot lifted his eyes and grabbed everything he could reach. Then God says to Abram, "Now you lift up your eyes," and hands him the whole horizon as a gift. The man who let the land go is the man shown all the land. The man who seized the best of it is already drifting toward Sodom. This is the upside-down arithmetic of grace that runs through the entire Bible. Whoever grasps to save his life will lose it, and whoever opens his hands and trusts God will be given more than he could ever have seized. And Abram moves his tent and settles by the oaks of Mamre at Hebron, and builds, of course, another altar to the Lord. Wherever this man goes, he leaves altars behind him. But here is what you must not miss about all these promises of land. Abram never really gets it. He will live and die a tent dweller, a stranger in the very country God swore to him, and the only patch of it he will ever own outright is the cave where he buries his wife. So was the promise a failure? Not at all. Because the New Testament tells us what Abram was actually looking at when he lifted up his eyes. He was not finally looking at Canaan. He was looking, it says, for the city that has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. He had left the city of man, the towers of Babel and behind him, and he spent the rest of his life walking toward a city he never reached on this earth, the city that, on the very last page of the Bible, comes down out of heaven. Canaan was only ever a picture of it. Abram died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them far off, and welcomed them. And every promise made to that one wandering old man comes true in the end, in one of his own descendants. Because all the families of the earth are blessed through Abram in exactly one way. Centuries later, another son of Abraham hears the same call, go, and obeys it to a depth Abram never could. He leaves not just a country, but heaven itself. He gives up not just his father's house, but the glory he had with his father before the world began. He goes out, not toward comfort, but toward a land of suffering, to carry Abram's blessing to every family on earth. Where Abram lied to save his own life, this one told the truth and laid his life down. Where Abram handed over his bride to save himself, this one gave himself to save his bride. He is the offspring, the one seed, through whom the scattered nations of Babel are finally gathered and blessed. The gospel that was preached in advance to Abram comes down to this: God so loved the families of the earth that he sent his only Son to bless them home. So the call still goes out, the same call, to you. Leave the country you have been clutching for your security. Take your hands off your own life. Stop lifting your eyes like Lot, scanning the horizon for the best deal you can grab, and lift them up like Abram to receive what God gives. You will not be told the whole route. You will only be told to go. The well-watered plain is always the easiest thing to see. It rarely shows you where it ends. The city with foundations is over the horizon, and you reach it one altar at a time. So the only question this old story leaves in your hands is the one Abram answered with his feet. God is calling. Will you keep gripping what you have, or will you go?